The mountains of Carvo's Reach were a place no one went unless they had nothing left to lose. Ash clung to the rocks. The air smelled of sulfur and old fire. High above, jagged peaks cut into storm-heavy clouds, and somewhere within those heights lay a dragon nesting ground. Ancient, sacred, and lethal to trespassers. That was where Cale Arden was going. Once, Cale had been a warrior of renown. Not a king's champion, not a hero sung by bards, but solid, dependable, the kind of soldier who stood when others broke. Then the war ended, and he was blamed, exiled, stripped of rank. His name struck from records, sent away with nothing but battered armor, a chipped sword, and the unspoken decree, disappear. So Cale walked north, toward cold, fire, and death. Cale knew dragon signs: scorched stone, melted snow, bones fused into glass. When he found the nest, his first instinct was to turn back. The cavern opened beneath a basalt overhang, hidden by smoke and heat shimmer. Inside, the ground pulsed faintly with warmth, and there, half buried in ash, were dragon eggs. Dozens of them. Cale froze. Gods, he whispered. Dragon nests were never unguarded, which meant only one thing. Something had gone wrong. Cale sensed it before he saw it. Movement. Too many footsteps. Too light to be dragons. Slavers. They crept along the ridge above the cavern. Men in fire-treated cloaks, carrying chain nets etched with runes. Egg hunters. The worst kind. Cale's hand tightened around his sword. He could leave. No one would blame an exiled man for not dying for monsters. But Cale remembered something his commander once said, long before exile. Honor isn't who you fight for, it's who you refuse to abandon. He stepped into the open. The first slaver laughed when he saw Cale. One man? The slaver scoffed. Against us. Cale planted his feet between them and the nest. Yes. Steel rang. Fire flared. Cale fought like a man who had already lost everything. He took wounds that would have dropped others. His armor cracked. His sword dulled. Still he stood. A net caught his leg. A spear pierced his side. He fell to one knee. Behind him, the eggs remained untouched. Cale smiled through blood. Not today. A roar shook the mountain. Not one. Many. The sky darkened as dragons returned. Fire rained down. The slavers screamed. Cale barely saw it, barely heard it. His strength was gone. He collapsed fully now, leaning against the stone at the nest's edge. A massive shadow lowered itself before him. A dragon matriarch, scales like molten obsidian, eyes blazing gold. She looked at the broken human, at the blood soaking the ash, at the eggs behind him. You knew what we were, she said, voice like thunder wrapped in sorrow. And you stood anyway. Cale met her gaze, vision fading. Someone had to, he murmured. When Cale's eyes closed, fire did not touch him. The matriarch bowed her head. And in that moment, dragonkind learned something new. That a human, cast out, nameless and alone, had chosen them. Not for reward, not for glory, but because it was right. Fire washed over the mountains of Carvo's Reach, cleansing ash, blood, and trespass alike. When the flames faded, the slavers were gone. Nothing left but scorched armor fused into stone and broken chains melted into useless slag. The dragon nesting grounds were silent again. Except for one thing. A human body lay at the threshold of the nest. Cale Arden did not move. The matriarch, Vernathra of the Deep Flame, stood over him for a long time. Her massive form blocked the cavern entrance. Wings folded, golden eyes fixed on the fallen warrior. She had lived for centuries. She had seen kingdoms rise and burn, treaties made and shattered. Humans kneel and humans hunt dragons without mercy. But never, never, had she seen a human stand alone between slavers and dragon eggs. He was exiled, murmured one of the returning guardians, a bronze-scaled elder named Corval. His scent carried shame and sorrow. Vernathra lowered her head until her breath stirred the ash around Cale's still form. Then his kind cast away a shield, she said quietly. And we found it. Dragons did not bury their dead. They remembered them. Vernathra ordered the nest sealed for a full day. No dragon left. No egg was moved. Heat was raised to a steady, reverent warmth, and Kale's body was carried, not dragged, into the cavern. The eggs pulsed softly, unharmed. Vernathra curled around Kale's body, her coils forming a circle of protection. She breathed controlled flame, not to consume, but to preserve. Scales blackened. Ash hardened. Kale Arden became stone, a statue forged by dragonfire. Kneeling with sword planted before him, body angled outward, still guarding the nest. Corval watched, awed. "You grant him a dragon's memory." "No," Vernathra replied. "I grant him ours." Dragons are not isolated creatures. They speak through thermals, through flame signals, through echoes in the mountains. And soon the story spread. A human had defended a nest. An exiled warrior had chosen death over escape. Dragon eggs lived because of him. Some scoffed. "A trick," said a storm drake from the west. "A fluke," claimed a frost WYRM elder. But others listened, and a few remembered. Weeks later, humans climbed Carvo's reach. Not slavers, not hunters, soldiers. They wore the crest of the kingdom that had exiled Kale Arden. Their commander, Captain Rowan Hale, had not believed the rumors, until he saw the scorched remains of slaver gear and the impossible stillness of the mountain. Then he saw the statue. He knew the stance. "Kneeling guard," Rowan whispered. That's Kale." The soldiers fell silent. They did not draw weapons when dragons emerged from the smoke. They knelt. Vernathra descended before them, wings spreading wide. "You come armed," she said. "Why?" Rowan swallowed. "We came to recover a body. We were told an exiled man died here." Vernathra's eyes burned brighter. "You will not take him." Rowan bowed his head lower. "Then, may we mourn him?" Silence stretched. Finally, Vernathra stepped aside. The soldiers approached the statue. Some wept openly. Others removed insignia and placed them at its base. Rowan pressed his fist to his chest. "We were wrong," he said hoarsely. "We sent away our best shield." Vernathra watched closely. "No fire will touch you today," she said. "But remember this truth. We remember those who protect our young." From that day on, the mountains changed. Dragon attacks on human caravans lessened, not ended but tempered. Patrols rerouted away from nesting grounds. Human hunters who ignored warnings vanished without trace. And among dragons, a new word entered their ancient tongue. Ashgard. It meant, one who stands knowing they will fall. Kale Arden's name was spoken with it. When the eggs finally hatched, the hatchlings were different. They were calm around the statue, curious. One even curled against the stone knee of the human guardian, purring softly. Corval watched in wonder. "They recognize him." Vernathra nodded. "They were warm when he bled for them." She looked out across the mountains. "This is not the end," she said. "Humans will learn. Dragons will decide." And somewhere between fire and stone, a promise was forming. The legend did not spread like fire. Fire burned fast and vanished. This spread like stone. Slow, heavy, impossible to ignore. Kale Arden's name began to appear where it should not have. In border taverns, spoken in low voices. In military camps, whispered by veterans. In court chambers, argued over by nobles who had once signed his exile. "A dragon nest," scoffed one lord. "Impossible." "A statue made by dragonfire," said another. "Propaganda." But too many accounts matched. Slaver remains fused into rock. A dragon matriarch seen circling Carvo's reach. Human soldiers returning alive. After kneeling. Truth has weight, and Kale's sacrifice carried a lot of it. King Alric Vane stared at the report in his hands. He remembered Kale Arden. Not personally, but politically. A convenient name, a necessary exile, a man sacrificed to keep peace between rival generals. Now that same name threatened to undo everything. "If the dragons honor him," Alric said slowly, "then they may listen." His advisors froze. "Your Majesty," one hissed, "you cannot negotiate with dragons." Elric looked up sharply. "Apparently, they already negotiated with one of ours." Silence followed. Finally, the king made a decision that would have once been unthinkable. "Prepare an envoy," he said. "Unarmed. No chains. No hunters." Someone swallowed hard. "And the message?" Elric closed his eyes. "Tell them we acknowledge our mistake." At Carvo's Reach, the statue of Kael Arden remained unchanged. But the world around it did not. Dragons came, some curious, some skeptical, some angry. They circled the stone figure, studied the kneeling stance, the outward-facing sword, the way the body shielded the nest even in death. "This one did not turn," growled a scarred wardrake, "even when falling." "He did not know we would return," said another. Vernathra listened. "He did not know," she agreed. "That is why it matters." That night something new happened. The stone warmed. A tremor ran through the cavern. Not violent, not destructive, intentional. Corval lifted his head sharply. "Matriarch," the statue. A faint glow traced along the cracks in the stone. Not fire, not magic as dragons knew it. Memory, the heat of the eggs, the blood on ash, the will of a human who had refused to step aside. The stone answered. A single crack formed across Kael's chest. The dragons recoiled. "Impossible," breathed Corval. "He is dead." Vernathra did not move. "No," she said quietly. "He is remembered." The human envoy reached the nesting grounds at dawn. They did not shout. They did not advance. They waited. King Elric himself stood at the front, crown removed, sword left behind. "I come unarmed," he called, "and unworthy." Dragons emerged from smoke and shadow. When Vernathra appeared, the king lowered himself to one knee. "I exiled Kael Arden," he said. "I was wrong." The words tasted like iron. "I cannot undo that, but I will bear it." Vernathra studied him. "You sent him away," she said, "and he stood where you did not." "Yes," Elric replied. "That truth will follow me until death." The mountain was silent. Then a sound. Stone shifting. The statue cracked further. Not collapsing. Opening. Light spilled from within, soft, golden, like embers seen through ash. The dragons stepped back in awe. Corval whispered, "What have we done?" Vernathra's voice trembled for the first time in centuries. "We remembered him. Completely." The king stared, breath caught in his throat. "Kael," he whispered. The stone did not fully break, but a hand, human, pressed against the inside of the stone shell. Alive, not reborn as dragon, not immortal, but returned bound to the mountain, to the promise his sacrifice had forged. The hand fell back. The light dimmed. The stone sealed again, but the crack remained. A sign. Vernathra turned to the king. "This does not mean forgiveness," she said. "It means consequence." She raised her wings. "From this day, any human who protects dragon young will be marked as Ashgard. Any who hunt them will be hunted." The king bowed deeply. "We accept," not because he was brave, but because he finally understood. Humans learned that exile could not erase honor. Dragons learned that memory could give more than revenge. And Kael Arden, once discarded, became something neither species had planned. A bridge, a warning, a promise carved into stone and fire. And deep within the mountain, the statue waited, not sleeping, watching. The mountains of Carvo's Reach were calm, almost serene, but the calm carried tension like a held breath. The crack in Kael Arden's statue glowed faintly as the wind carried distant screams. A new threat had arrived. Slavers had returned, not to steal eggs, but to enslave dragons themselves, capturing young, powerful fire-breathing beasts to sell across human kingdoms. Their armor shimmered with heat-resistant enchantments. Their weapons screamed of fire magic and steel. It was the first time in decades that dragons feared the plains would belong to humans again. Not for protection, but for greed. And Kael Arden's presence, glowing faintly within his stone form, was the only thing standing between devastation and survival. Vernathra rose into the sky, wings stretching wide. Flames licked her scales, lighting the clouds red. Her roar shattered ice and rock alike. Dragons across the peaks answered, screeching, roaring, rolling through thermal currents, ready for war. But Kale's voice, soft, human, resolute, echoed over the roar. Stop! Hear me! Dragons froze mid-flight. Slavers faltered. The humans who had come with the slavers glanced around. Fear, confusion, awe. The stone man speaks. Kale's statue cracked further. One arm emerged, fingers flexing with impossible strength. His eyes, faintly golden, opened. Not dragon, not fully human. Somewhere in between, marked forever as Ashgard, the protector who bridged worlds. The slaver commander laughed, raising a spear glowing with black fire. You dare speak to dragons? A human? You are nothing. Kale stepped forward. His stone legs creaked, but they held. I am what humans can be, Kale said. I am the choice you refuse to make, and I will protect them. The slaver hurled the spear. Kale raised his hand. His new form channeled dragon fire, his human heart guiding it, creating a shield of heat and light that vaporized the weapon before it could strike. The dragons circled lower, flames licking the air, not to attack, but to follow his command. The slavers realized too late that the human in front of them controlled the battlefield. Vernra, matriarch of the nest, landed beside him. You still bear human limitations, she rumbled. Kale looked at her. Perhaps, but I also bear human endurance, human choice, and sometimes, that is stronger than fire. Valkyr, the bronze-scaled dragon who had survived Kale's first legendary defense decades ago, roared his approval. Together, human and dragon made a bond that could not be broken by chains or blades. The slavers, realizing they could not compete with a living legend and a 1,000-ton army of dragons, faltered. Kale stepped toward them, not for vengeance, not for killing, but for choice. Leave, he said simply, and never return, or next time, it will not be mercy you face. They fled, leaving their weapons, leaving their plans, leaving their pride. When the mountains finally fell silent again, Kale knelt beside the eggs. The hatchlings peeked out of their shells. One curled against him, sensing his sacrifice, sensing his protection. Vernra lowered her massive head. You have done more than guard eggs, she said. You have changed the way dragons remember humans. Kale smiled faintly, exhausted but alive. Then let them remember, he whispered. Dragons began teaching their young the word humans could not forget. Ashgard. One who stands when it is easiest to fall, who acts when the world has given up hope. The hatchlings curled closer to Kale, instinctively understanding. Kale knew the mountains would always be dangerous. Other humans, other slavers, other wars, they would come again. Vernra spoke before he could voice his worry. Your life is yours, she said. But these mountains, this nest, you belong here now, with us, or you may leave. Humans are fragile, but your courage is eternal. Kale looked at the snow-dusted peaks, the eggs glowing in warmth, dragons circling in quiet reverence. He could leave, return to human kingdoms, to anonymity, to quiet and safety, or he could stay, guard the nest, teach dragons and humans alike what courage, choice, and honor truly meant. He smiled. Then I stay. The dragons roared in approval. Flames erupted in celebration. The sky burned with red, gold, and bronze. Kale knelt, resting his hand on a hatchling. He was no longer fully human, no longer fully stone. He was Ashgard, a bridge between two worlds. And the world would never forget. Long after Kale Arden's mortal self had faded from human lands, his legend endured. Dragons carried his memory across mountains. Humans whispered his name as the one who could face death and choose to protect life that was not theirs. Hatchlings learned to see humans as allies, not prey. In every snowstorm, every roar of dragons across the peaks, there was a reminder. Humans endure. Humans choose. And sometimes humans protect dragons, so dragons remember them forever.